Hi, hello, and welcome to LearnStroke IAS classes. And you're listening to the editorial analysis for UPSC 2024 examination. And this is the class 4, and I am Arjun R. Shankar. Let's quickly move on. And if you have not downloaded LearnStroke IAS app, please do check it out and watch all the free videos that is inside the app. And in the meanwhile, let me also remind you about the wonderful initiative that we are doing for 2024 online batch. It's a Cloud9 batch for all the graduates, and please do check it out. And let's why this editorial is important. And a lot of people skip this editorial, so you can read it and find it out. And let's quickly move on to the first important editorial of the day. Here we go: nuclear signaling, the need for new guardrails. So when you discuss this concept, the first important thing that comes into the mind is GS paper 2. International relationship is the most important thing that you should understand here. And this article contains a lot of concepts regarding the IR. The lot of concepts regarding the IR is being discussed in this. So we need to have a good idea about all these concepts. What are the important concepts that we have to understand will be dwelt in this article. So let's before we actually understand this whole thing, let's quickly get a frame. An idea is that at one side you have the Ukraine, make it more clear, and on the one side you have the Ukraine-Russia war, and on the other side you should see that it is the United States of America, led by and many other countries relating to NATO, and on this side you have Russia, and this side you have Russia. So this is the equation of the article, and you know that Russia-Ukraine war, and in this context they are trying to bring in the concept of nuclear energy or nuclear power. So the whole article is revolving around this: US, NATO on the one side, Russia on the other side, and Ukraine on the center, and how, with the pretext of Ukraine, how is the nuclear power being used is another important aspect. So this article definitely talks about a lot of concepts of IR. So that is why it is very important. Lots of concepts of IR is also being discussed here. So let's apply the IAS filter here. Let's apply the IAS filter, and let's check out the important points. And the most important thing that you have to remember is the nuclear deterrence. What is the concept of nuclear deterrence? It might be a new concept for many of you. What do you mean by nuclear deterrence? And Joe Biden has made it, United States has made it very clear that we need to avoid something called as a third world war. Very important. We need to avoid a third world war and a NATO-Russia conflict. So we need to avoid a third world war. That is something that is to be noted here. And in the context of Ukraine, in also in the current affairs, you know that a lot of things have been supplied, like Javelin and Stinger missile, the Patriot missiles, the defense batteries, long-range HIMARS, Storm Shadows, Scalp long-range missiles, and even F-16. So apart from keeping Ukraine outside, so we previously discussed about Ukraine here. So when you take away Ukraine here, on one side it is actually talking about the US and Russia, and it talks about the history of US and Russia, and previously it was USSR. So definitely there is a mention of Cold War. So how is nuclear power kept as a deterrent? So what is the concept of nuclear deterrence? So nuclear escalation management has also been discussed. So what is nuclear deterrence? Let's quickly understand all these concepts. And here we go. And even on April 24, Joe Biden said that US is neither encouraging Ukraine to strike beyond its borders, but definitely there will be some help given. And you should also know that Ukraine is not an official NATO member. So in this concept, what is the concept of extended deterrence? This is a new question, so you should know what do you mean by the concept of an extended deterrence. What do you mean by extended deterrence? So this is a concept, a very strong concept of American nuclear policy. Say, imagine that. Let's before you read that, just imagine that during the time US is actually there, and there are some of the countries during the Cold War time. There are some of the countries which are the allies. So these countries are supporters of United States of America, and on the other side you have something called the USSR, the former, the precursor of Russia. So if at all Russia is trying to attack any of the allies of US, what US will do is US will threaten USSR with the nuclear catastrophe. US will actually give a threat of nuclear. If you attack any of our allies or the countries that are supporting US, then US will threaten them with the nuclear fallout. So this is basically what is called as extended deterrence during the Cold War time. So what do you mean by Cold War time? So you should know that after from 1947, I'll make it very brief, from 1947 to 1991, it was seen that the whole world was polarized and divided into the Eastern Bloc and the Western Bloc, and one was dominated by the USSR, the precursor of Russia, and the other by USA. So what happened is, the time during the Cold War, not after the Second World War, great wars or great events did not happen. Great fightings also did not happen, but majority of them were actually proxy wars. Were actually proxy war. So I will also tell you what do you mean by the concept of proxy war if you do not know. So the concept of extended deterrence is actually a threat of retaliation, as now what is called as the extended deterrence. So US will threaten the USSR whether if you attack, we will use nuclear power. So this is called deterrence. The word deterrence itself means to prevent or deter, etc. So deterrence, the extended deterrence still remains as an important pillar of US policy. Very, very important. So I think you know this concept, nuclear deterrence. And after that, I said multiple proxy wars were seen, Vietnam, Afghanistan in 1980s. So proxy war is something. Let me also make it more simple for you. If there is one country, there is a fight between A and B. There is a fight between A and B, and A is supported by C, D, and E. So A is a superpower, B is also an important power. What happens is A and B have engaged in war, but the point is A will not directly involve in this. The important battles that has been actually faced is between C, D, and E and B. So BE, BD, BC will be the war, but A will be the main power which is instigating or controlling it. So proxy war occurs when major power instigates or plays a major role in supporting and directing a party to conflict. But very important, only a small portion of the actual fighting itself. So the main party does only a small portion of the fighting. So I think proxy war is also clear. And before we go on to the other concept of deterrence, you should know what is the basic principle of deterrence or nuclear deterrence. And the basic assumption is that the cost outweighs the benefits. Very important. The cost outweighs the benefits. Let's understand. A and B, again, there are countries, and both of them are nuclear powers. Both of them are nuclear powers. And imagine that both of them use nuclear power. Both of them are using nuclear powers. So definitely there will be benefits for many of the countries. Many of the countries will have benefits. They might get more territories. They might increase the geographical space. But what you see that when A and B uses nuclear power, there will definitely be something called as a cost. There will be something called as a cost. That is an economic cost, financial cost, social cost, humanity cost. A lot of people will die. Hundreds and thousands of people will die. So apart from the benefit, always look at the cost that the countries and the world is going to witness. So this is a founding principle of nuclear deterrence. Let's move on to the other. In this context, know what is stability instability paradox and nuclear deterrence. So what is this stability instability paradox? I'm just trying to explain this. And let's take another example again. A and B. A and B, what? They are both nuclear powers. A and B are both nuclear powers, and they both have nuclear powers. So when A and B are directly having nuclear powers, the chances, the probability of a direct war between them, so just check it, the probability of a direct war between them decreases. So A and B going into a war basically decreases because both of them are nuclear powers. If A attacks B, B will use nuclear power, and definitely if B uses nuclear power, A will also use nuclear power. So in such cases, the probability of a direct war is decreasing. This is the instability paradox, stability instability paradox of nuclear deterrence. But A and B, when they're nuclear powers, small conflicts increases. So small conflicts increases, but every now and then every country has problem that increases, but the direct war probability comes down. So that is something that we have to check here. So this concept, so minor indirect conflicts between them increases, but the direct probability decreases. And also check it out. And this was actually popularized by Thomas Schelling, whose writings during the 1960s shaped this. He also said that nuclear weapons were not usable. When you say nuclear weapons here, many of the countries do not use these nuclear weapons, but they use this threat. This is the threat. They use this threat that I will use nuclear power. This threat is actually always used to prevent war. This is the theory. They use nuclear powers, they don't use it, they use this as a threat to stop wars and prevent war. So nice perspective to be learned here. And in this context, you should also remember about Russia's nuclear doctrine. So what is Russia's nuclear doctrine? So in this context, when you listen to Russia's nuclear doctrine, I must also say you should know about India's nuclear policy. What is India's nuclear policy? You should also have an idea relating to that. And you must be some things might be coming to your mind: no first use, etc. So what is India's nuclear policy, and what is Russian nuclear doctrine? So the first one clearly say that in case of an aggression against the Russian Federation, the use of nuclear weapons and other type of weapons of mass destruction will be used. Russia will use it if it is actually transgressing the Russian Federation. And the second one seems to be an interesting approach: escalate to de-escalate approach of the Russian doctrine. Escalate to de-escalate approach. So when you get questions for IR and other things, if you use these vocabularies, the chances of you getting more marks in the mains examination is always high. Everybody writes the same answers, but if you can use certain vocabularies, definitely you will get more marks in the mains examination. So trust me. So escalate to de-escalate, as you can see that you can see two countries are actually fighting. And as I said, A has nuclear power, and you actually threaten B that you will use nuclear power. You just threaten B with the simple threat that I might use nuclear power. You either solve the problems of B or even make B surrender, and you end the problems on your favorable terms. You end the hostilities on favorable terms. That is a key important point. You end this whole thing on favorable terms. So this is Russia's nuclear doctrine. So please remember all these concepts. And I think let's quickly go to the question corner here for the mains. I'll just cut it here. What about is not about. I'll just cut it into what is. What is the nuclear deterrence theory? Do nuclear weapons help keep the pace? Discuss. So you need to know what is the nuclear deterrence theory and how is Russia's nuclear doctrine different from Indian nuclear policy. You need to comment on that also. So no, it's a comparative analysis, very a potent question for the mains examination. And extended deterrence on the way to a nuclear free world, it's an essay question. Extended deterrence can make a nuclear free world when nobody, because basically extended deterrence is nobody's using nuclear power. You just threaten it. You just threaten the countries. It's a very simple thing. And for the next 2024 examination master checklist, do it yourself. Know more about NATO. Which are the countries included in NATO? Where is Crimea? Mark it on the map. What is a no-fly zone? And locate Poland, Slovakia, and Bulgaria on the map and see which are the neighboring countries of Poland, which are the neighboring countries of Slovakia, which are the important neighboring countries of Bulgaria. You can expect this question in the GS paper 1 prelims, in the neighboring countries, etc. What is 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis? Know it for world history. And what is Warsaw Pact? Know it for world history for mains. So these are some of the important things regarding this article. So let's quickly delve into the other important articles immediately. India needs evidence-based, ethics-driven medicines. So very important for GS paper 2 health. GS paper 2 health. Let me also give you a very good disclaimer. All the people, because this article is criticizing homeopathy practitioners to the core. So if you are a homeopathy practitioner, this article is actually written by a few physicians and doctors who claim that homeopathy does not have any international healing medicinal system, and there is no proof that homeo can really heal diseases. So it might be a negative article for people who are homeo practitioners, but I'll simply narrate the important perspective of why they call homeopathy as not working. Okay, so nothing personal, and you're free to comment your ideas below the comment also. So let's quickly apply the IAS filter. Let's filter it and take the important points here. So you will see that the recent move is to bring in Ayush. Ayush is the reason why everybody is talking about this, because imagine that this is the health system. Imagine that the health system is trying to integrate all streams of medicines together. So this is one health system. Every branches of health system is actually trying to be together to bring a better health system in India. And in this concept, also understand what is UHC or universal health coverage, and what do you mean by decolonizing medicine. So it's an academic concept. What is decolonization of academics? So basically understand this is the health, and all system of health systems are actually trying to be integrated, and Ayush has actually been integrated. And in this concept, the editorials say that homeopathy is not worth including in this because homeopathy's efficacy and clinical trials are very low. So this is that we have to discuss. So in this context, we need to know the article discuss about UHC or universal health coverage. What do you mean by UHC? It simply means that please understand, all people, the keyword all people should have access. What all people should have access to full range of quality health services they need when and where they need without financial hardship. So this is the keyword. So all people need to have full range of quality health services that they need when they need without financial hardship. So this is an important point that I made here. And there are a lot of inequalities in UHC. So please do remember about the universal health coverage. All people needs basic full access of quality health services at the time they need without much financial hardship. So please understand this concept of UHC or universal health coverage. And let me also tell you what we mean by decolonizing medicine. And I think I'll explain one concept, because decolonize, the word decolonize itself is actually a academic concept. I don't know whether decolonizing medicine is the same concept, but I am assuming that this is the same thing. But let me also make it clear. Decolonize is actually an academic movement. Say, imagine that this is an academic movement across universities and other learning system. See, imagine that this is the learning system. This is the learning system, or this is the curriculum. So in majority of the cases, you see that this is the shaded region. This shaded region is actually 20%, and the other thing is 80%. So a lot of people believe that in majority of the learning system or curriculum system, 20% of the majority learning system is still colonial. Majority of this is very colonial in the sense it has got the colonial hangover, colonial offshoot, or colonial system, or colonial thinking, or colonial bias in the learning academic system. So I think you are getting this point clearly. So this is the shortcut for this. Some of it is actually 20% of this is colonial. So this is an academic movement across other institutions and universities, which is actually trying to highlight the inequality resulting from the historical colonial influence and transform it into modern thing. So that means this 20% colonial thing should be removed. It can be every learning system, every academic system definitely has that colonial hangover. You take out that colonial hangover and bring in and remove the unconscious biases and remove colonial references. A lot of academics definitely have that unconscious bias and colonial references. So you delete that. So this is what is called as decolonizing in academic perspective. And I'm assuming that definitely decolonizing medicine can be the same concept. You cut out. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, and you can put it in the comment. Feel free. I'm just presuming this. So this is the concept of decolonizing medicine. And now let's discuss about the negatives of homeopathy, as said by the articles. First important saying, it lacks significant clinical effects. They say that it do not have the proper clinical effect. And the homeopathy's efficacy is very low. It low evidence of quality and raises uses of the clinical use. It says that the results of homeopathy, the efficacy is very low for homeopathy, and more than 193 trials in the last 2 decades were not at all registered. But the unregistered trials showed to have more evidence. But majority of the trials of the efficacy of homeopathy is not at all tested. And they have even cited WHO. The WHO has warned against HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria, flu, diarrhea in infants, and even for cancers, they say that do not use homeopathy according to WHO. So this is also another perspective. Whether this is right or wrong is up to the clinical trials, and this is what they say. They have low results, low evidence is there. This is the important point that they are citing here. And the low results is also something that you should be noting this. And one thing that you should know is every academic discipline have something called evidence synthesis method. So evidence synthesis method is very important here, whether it is be psychology, economics, community health, implementation science, public policy. There is something called as an evidence synthesis method, and the article clearly say that homeopathy does not have this proper evidence synthesis. So these are important keywords. Okay, evidence synthesis method. When you write all these keywords in your mains answers, you get more marks rather than writing like a normal aspirant. So imagine that 1839 it was brought in India by an Austrian physician, Jane Honingberger. I don't know whether I'm pronouncing it right. It's actually Honingberg. James Honingberg can be the right pronunciation. From homeopathy, and it is even said that Gandhiji and Rabindranath Tagore are great supporters of homeopathy. But critics say that Gandhi's writing do not reflect about much on homeopathy. But they say that Gandhi and Tagore were great patrons of homeopathy. So this is something relating to the important aspect of the concept. So whether you agree with this or not, you can actually comment. So my question for the mains is, what is universal health coverage or UHC? What are some of the challenges in achieving this? So very important here. And something related to what is decolonizing medicine? Why is it essential in modern learning methodology? Discuss. Very important. And for the 2024 prelims and mains, please check out, know more about homeopathy. What is Ayush? Find out more about Ayush. And what is randomized controlled trial RCT? So a lot of articles have been written on this. So try to understand what is all this regarding this. I think we'll move on to the other important editorial. Yes, the age of consent should be revised in India. Do you agree or not? So it is a fantastic article regarding GS1, where role of women is actually discussed and the society is discussed, and definitely GS paper 2, because it talks about women, age of consent. GS paper 1 definitely role of women, society, etc. GS paper 2, it talks about various aspect of welfare and even government intervention, because there is something related to laws, etc., because POCSO is actually a law discussed. So law, government intervention, law, governance, welfare, so a lot of areas can be actually mentioned here. So what is the age of consent bill here? So let's quickly check out. If you do not know what you mean by age of consent, let's quickly understand what you mean by age of consent. Apply the IAS filter as always, and let's check it out. Recently, the Bombay High Court triggered this because it was hearing an appeal by a man who was sentenced to 10 years of prison for maintaining a consensual relationship with a minor girl. And the High Court said it is high time you reduce the age of consent. That is the important. From 18, you have to bring it down. Do you agree with this statement? Because what is age of consent? Age of consent is an age at which a person is considered to be legally competent to consent to sexual acts. So let me make it much more clearer here. Again, take the example of A and B. A is actually, this is the most common example. Okay, A and B have a sexual act or a sexual relationship, and in this context, B is a girl. B is a girl and is of 17 years old, and A is a man, a boy of 21 years old. So they have a sexual intercourse or a sexual activity. So according to the law, this is nothing but a statutory rape. This is nothing but a statutory rape or a sexual abuse. You know why? Because in lot of cases this happens is B is a girl, so the B's father and mother, the parents, they will give complaint that A has actually raped B, or A has actually kidnapped and raped B. In most of the cases, you see that A and B had a sexual relationship only after the consent. The girl B gave a consent that let's have a sexual activity. It was actually consensual. But the problem is, A is actually being punished in India for 10 years. You should see the 10 years. And most often we say that majority of A and B, they might be involved in a romantic relationship. So they might be involved in a romantic relationship. But what happens is, he is charged 10 years in prison. He's charged 10 years for the same thing where both of them are consented. And for multiple repeated penetrative sex, the punishment is even 20 years. So that is the problem. So definitely a lot of people say that POCSO, definitely the protection should be given to boy and girl, but the problem is when there is a consent. When there is a consent, why should actually it be criminalized? What is your opinion on that? Should it be criminalized? Because what you need to know is majority of the cases here are misused. The sections of POCSO and other things are misused to a large extent. So this is, so an adult who engages in sexual activity with a person younger than the age of consent is unable to legally claim that the sexual activity was consensual. So you cannot legally claim that it was consensual even though it was consent. The age of consent is actually 18, and a girl is 16 or 17. Even if you have consent, that is nothing but statutory rape and sexual abuse. Even both of you are consented. So don't you think it is actually criminalizing? You should actually decriminalize it. This is what Bombay High Court is also saying. What is your opinion on that? So let's find out the other important aspects relating to this concept. And so what is POCSO? We're talking about POCSO. POCSO was actually passed in 2012 to address the sexual exploitation and abuse of children. POCSO means Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. So please do have an idea regarding this. The ultimate idea was, to protect children from harm. Children should be protected from harm. That is the key important aspect that you need to be done here. So that was the key important aspect of POCSO. And in this concept, also know what you mean by JJB, the Juvenile Justice Board. It's very important. And who constitute, what is the constitution of JJB? Who are the members of JJB? How are they elected? Very important. You should be knowing on that. Moving on to the other important aspect is regarding the important cases, whether when you have a problem with A and B, B again the girl, A is the boy, you actually have a complaint. The immediate complaint goes to the police. So according to the law, even according to the law says that police should not interfere in this at all. You should not interfere. Before that, there are few things that needs to be done. So soon after the report is made, interviews with the boy and girl should not be carried out by the police. So that is wrong. First, the interview should be done by a social worker or a support person, and that is actually in law. And there are supposed to be 2 social workers in every special juvenile police unit. I don't know how many police units have that, but definitely according to the law, 2 social workers should be there. So first is A and B. You should actually, there will be an interview, a report will be made, and whether C, what is the issue, is it misused, whether there is a concern, and only after that, regarding this, the trauma should be, you should not traumatize the issue and see whether misuse has not happened. Only then the police will come into the picture, and whether they need to put the FIR or not is a different aspect. So this is the important legal aspect regarding that. And also whether to reduce the age of consent into 16, 15, 14 or 12. Before that, why is consent, you should actually, when is consent relevant, and what is the relevance of consent is also something that we have to understand. And also understand from 1940 till the passing of POCSO in 2012, it was just 16 years. And also you should take a look at that. Most of the developing countries and most of the developed countries, you will see that 16 is the age of consent. And if that's so, why in India don't you think it's time to bring it down? It's up to you. So this will ensure that consensual sexual relationship between adolescents are not criminalized. So you can actually protect them with POCSO, but should we criminalize it? Because misuse and a lot of other things, people are getting 10 years to 20 years of imprisonment. So this has to be taken seriously from a societal note. What are your opinions? Please do update on that. And question corner. India needs to lower age of consent and stop misuse of child protection law. You should give your opinions. What is your opinion on that? And the current age of consent does not reflect societal realities and results in the law criminalizing adolescent sexuality rather than focusing on child sexual abuse. Comment. This is a very good question. You have to think, because is it not reflecting the societal realities and results in the law criminalizing, it is actually criminalizing adolescent sexuality rather than focusing on child sexual abuse. So this is something that you need to know. And for 2024 master checklist, what is POCSO? what is the age of consent, and what is juvenile justice board, what is the constitution of this. Please do find it out, and that is very important. And let's quickly move on to the next important article, is incremental justice. So this is a classic question of GS paper 1, history, art and culture, and also GS paper 2, because a lot of legal aspects regarding the law, important governance aspects, and even Supreme Court is involved in this, and a lot of government bodies like a Archaeological Survey of India, even so it's historical, the government machinery, how is it responding. So GS paper 1 and 2, very important aspect that we can learn from this. So what is this basic issue? This is nothing but the Gyan Vyapi case. I'll explain it simply. This is the Gyan Vyapi case, and you know that this is a mosque. This is a mosque, and recently the Hindus on this side and the Muslim board on this side. So recently in the Gyan Vyapi mosque, the Hindus say near the pond, at the pond, in the walls of the mosque, they say there is a Shivalinga. This is very important. They say there is a Shivalinga in this, and Hindus have given a petition that every day Hindu should be given permission to pray in the mosque in the wall, which is supposed to be a Shivalinga. So this is basic. The basic case is all about this. So Hindus at one side and Muslims on the one side, and this side you have the Gyan Vyapi. You have the Gyan Vyapi mosque. And recently, before this, many surveys, the photographic surveys have actually been done. And now you know what the biggest problem is. Hindus have given a petition in the Allahabad High Court. Very important. They have given an important thing in the Allahabad High Court, asking the ASI to come into picture. The archaeological survey should come into the picture. So this is Gyan Vyapi, and this is the Hindus. And at this point, you have the Allahabad High Court, and here you have the Muslim community, Muslim board. So Hindus have given a petition to the Allahabad High Court asking the ASI, Archaeological Survey of India, to do a scientific survey on Gyan Vyapi mosque and even do carbon dating. They also want carbon dating. And at this point, the Muslim board went into the Supreme Court. This is another aspect. The Muslim board went into the Supreme Court and said that you should not allow Archaeological Survey of India to conduct the scientific survey inside the Gyan Vyapi mosque. I think now the issue is clear. Let's slowly understand, apply the IAS filter, and understand the important points regarding this. The Muslim body sought an urgent hearing before the head of the Supreme Court Chief Justice, D.Y. Chandrachud, and asked to stop ASI from carrying out the survey. You should not carry out the survey. And know the basics. The Hindu devotees plea seeking carbon dating of a shivling inside Gyan Vyapi mosque. They say that there is a shivling. There is a shivling inside the temple, and you need to do a carbon dating. An object during the survey was claimed by the Hindu petitioners as carbon. Previously, photographic surveys have been done, and the present case, where 5 Hindu devotees filed in 2021 seek the rights for daily prayer for Hindu idols on the outer wall. So this is the wall, and on the outer wall you have the Shivlinga. Hindus are requesting that every day you need permission to go and pray this. So that is the main important case that we need to understand here. And during the survey, the Shivling was found close to the Vazu Khana. What do you mean by the Vazu Khana? The ablution pond. And the basic premise of this is that, let's understand this. Previously, according to the history by Satish Chandra, this was actually a temple. And this temple was actually destroyed. This temple was destroyed, and a mosque was constructed later. And as per the Mughal Emperor, Aurangzeb actually destroyed this temple because he believed that it is a center spreading subversive idea and it needs measure of punishment. So that is why this old temple was actually demolished and made it as a Muslim mosque. This is what history, this is the Satish Chandra's version. So this is what you need to understand. And let's understand the important concepts. The Anjuman Intizamiya Masjid Committee challenging the Allahabad High Court. So I think at this point you have the Allahabad High Court. This is the Allahabad High Court, and this side you have the Supreme Court. So the Hindus gave a petitions to Allahabad High Court. So the Allahabad High Court Chief Justice, you can just see that the Pritinkar Divakar said, archaeological survey's importance for justice. Definitely you need archaeological survey for the importance of justice. But the Muslim body, Anjuman Intisamiya Masjid Committee, immediately approached the Supreme Court to stop archaeological surveys, scientific inquiry. So I think you got this clearly. And after the judgment, a caveat application was actually filed. What do you mean by a caveat application? What do you mean by a caveat application? See, imagine that a caveat application is filed by a litigant. If I am the litigant, I am actually filing it because no adverse order is passed against me. Without me being heard, I have the right to be heard. So before you hear my side, you cannot actually proclaim or pronounce a judgment. So I'm filing a caveat application that before you go for a judgment, I need to be heard. You should hear my side of the story, and then importantly, and also, what do you mean by Places of Worship Act? This is also important. Places of Worship Act 1991. What are the special provisions we need to understand? So let's take a close look at it. So imagine that this is a temple. This is a temple, and this is a small temple, and this act, this the Worship Act, it's clearly say that it prohibits conversion of any place of worship into other things. So this is actually on 15th August 1947 is the date, the Independence date. So you cannot convert this monument or this religious monument into another thing. You cannot construct or convert this into another thing. And this act is prohibiting conversion of any place of worship and provide maintenance of the religious character, just as it was in 1947 August 15th. So 15th August 1947, this was actually a temple where people used to practice, or any monument. You cannot convert this. This should be protected and given maintenance as it was in 15th August 1947. So just like that, you have to be clear on that. So I think you got these points also. So moving on to the question corner, what is the Place of Worship Special Provisions Act 1991? What are some of the main provisions? You should be knowing this. And next question is something that I really liked while drafting the question. The issuance of scientific investigations in the controversial disputed monuments can reimagine the embedded history, but with a lot of socio-economic and legal confrontations. Give your views in the light of recent incidents. So it might be a difficult question, but UPSC asks a lot of questions like this. Imagine that. I'll just explain the question. This is a monument. This is a monument. Okay. So this is scientific investigation. Scientific investigation. So the question is, if you do a lot of scientific investigations in disputed monuments, definitely new history will come. That means you will reimagine history 100%. If you explain scientific analysis on disputed monuments, you will get more scientific, you will get new history, or history will be reimagined. But this process, you can just see this process of scientific inquiry into a monument, into reimagining history, is considering a lot of problems like socio-economic and legal confrontations. So in the light of recent incidents like Gyanvapi, you should explain what in the recent incidents, why is this an important aspect. So for 2024 master checklist, know more about the Gyanvapi case, what is the Places of Worship Special Provisions Act, and what is the Archaeological Survey of India, what is a duty, please know about this, and what is carbon dating. So do understand all these important areas. And I think we have come to an end of the editorial session, the class. And for all the people in the app, if you're a beginner, watch Kickstart IAS at just $5.99. Watch 25 plus videos, the first India's master class for IAS, and learn IAS without the IAS preparation without anybody's help. And again, reminding all of you regarding the Cloud9 batch, the online, where you can learn completely in the learning app, plus live classes, plus mentoring. If you're all, a lot of people, we are getting a lot of interesting queries from across India. So if you're also interested, let us know. And also introducing our integrated prelims and mains test series, and also super mentoring. If you are preparing on your own and you need to talk to us, do a mentoring for 1 year for the next mains, feel free to contact us and we'll be happy to help you. So please do subscribe the channel and press the bell icon to receive all the wonderful classes that we are creating. And also check out the Telegram channel and the LearnStroke IAS current affairs in Instagram to receive daily current affairs. If you want to talk to me, please email me in Arjun at learnstrokeapp.com. And if you want to have a query, please dial the numbers of WhatsApp. We'll be happy to help you. So keep preparing well, and best of luck for all the aspirants.